All right, you want to kick it off, Stace?
This week's theme song is very timely. It's ripped from the headlines. Industry contraction gives us no satisfaction. No, 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 no. Here on the Showrunner Show. Unemployment sucks.
That's good.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is
Speaks
very
to all
timely.
of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Welcome, everyone, to the Showrunner Show, where every week we demystify some aspect of the job of showrunning for anyone who works in TV, who wants to work in TV, or just wants to know how it's all made. I'm Drew Dowdle.
I'm John Eric Dowdle.
I'm Stacy Shabosky, and we're super duper duper psyched that you are here listening to our podcast. Thanks.
Yeah, this week we're again talking with the brilliant cinematographer Todd McMullen
Yay!
about
Thank you.
all things production and cinematography. So yeah, jumping in, like, what's something that makes you crazy when showrunners do it or directors do it? Like, what's something that, like, you're like, oh, don't you see that this is, like, I don't know, just making life so hard? Like, what is that thing?
That's a great question. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I think when a showrunner or a director says, hey, I think we should get this coverage, when they also say in the same breath, we don't need it, but I want to get it for them or get it for the studio, or the producer asks, make sure I got coverage. In other words, they know they don't need it, but they're pacifying somebody else who hired them. And I get it, but if you know you don't need it, you're hired for a reason, you know. Now, if you need it, you need it, but if you don't, you don't. If that makes sense. You know, or, you know, you get a close-up and they go, I think we need to get closer. And you're like, well, why? Because, well, just in case they need to go somewhere else with it or whatever. You're like,
Yeah.
that's not our show. Why would they do that? But, you know, that's answering that question.
Yeah, that's good too. And cinematographers, I feel like, so often know the style of the show, the look of the, you know what I mean? Like, if your cinematographer is saying you don't need this extra close, we're not that show. Chances are they know better than, you know, often a guest director is just coming in for an episode or two and may not have the, you know, the broader view of some of that stuff. And, you know, in post, you can just punch in on that stuff. Like, you know what I mean? That's
true. Yeah.
That's one of those things. If you're using a decent camera, you can always make a closer close
Yeah.
up.
Well, let me revise my answer. I think what gets me is when you get formula directors who come in and know they're almost doing it by phone. They know we're going to do a wide shot, we're going to do a medium shot, we're going to do a close-up, we're going to do some coverage. That is, you know, I get it, we do it, and I have no problem with it. But that, in its essence, like, well, okay, do you need to do all that? You know, we got a full schedule. Do you need to get the actor saying you know, or whatever it is? So that gets me sometimes. But I understand it, but it does get me.
If there are two crimes and one of them is too many setups and the other crime is too many takes in one setup, which is the worst crime? Which is punishable by death?
Well, that's a great question. I think on my end, I think it would be too many takes. And I think you'd get a lot of actors that might agree with that too. But yeah, I think, you know, it's part of that whole thing. If you're not quite sure, well, when will you be sure? You know, so yeah, I agree. Too many takes, I think, is, you know, that would be one.
What do you think is the perfect number of takes? 3? Is 3 that?
I think if you're working with Clint Eastwood, it's 1.
Love it.
I've heard he's like 1 and done. But no, I think, you know, if the actor's prepared, they know what they're saying, and it's, you know, not in a hugely emotional scene, you know, a couple takes maybe, you know, a couple different versions and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're in double digits, you're gone too far.
Yeah. We had a guest director one time who did tons and tons of takes. And it wasn't like a whole bunch of different setups. It was like the same angle over and over. And it, you know, we found it that like had I don't know, it burned out the actors because the actors are like, okay, what are they not getting? Why am I doing the same thing over and over? Why aren't they like, what am I not getting? Or what am I not doing right? You know, I think that's the way actors internalize it. And the crew just ends up bored because they're not moving it. They're just sitting there watching the same thing over and over.
the hidden cost there too is editorial. Like when you have 12 takes of everything, editing is a nightmare because you have to watch all of that over and over and try to decide what's better, and they're all like almost exactly the same, and like the it clogs up editorial in such a bad way where sometimes fewer options are, kind of fewer but different options in editorial is way better than quantity, I think.
Yeah, no, I get that too, and I think part of this also an actor. I've heard them say, unless you're specifically giving me some detail to do differently, what is different here? If they just come up and say, hey, let's just do it again, and they're like, well, what do you want? And they don't say anything, that can be frustrating.
Yeah, I feel like it's important to, communicate with the actors, and that, like, if you're going to do 20 takes of a thing, something better be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to just doing it because, like what you were saying, like, at what point are you going to be sure if you're not sure? I don't know. Right. There is an aspect of like, after, 3-4 takes, it's probably not getting much better,
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think the quote, I'm not feeling it from the director works when you've got 9 pages to shoot,
Yeah.
I'm not feeling it. Wait, what are you not feeling?
What do you think is the biggest mistake or the biggest pothole that guest directors step into? So not the showrunner, not block one, but like somebody who's come in mid-season, like what would be an avoidable, mistake that you see that's consistent among guest directors?
I guess one of the things I've experienced is just kind of everybody has a little bit of a vision, but if you've been doing this and gone through the circuit, so to speak, you kind of know what the show's about. Now, there may be specific storylines you want to kind of guide in a different direction, or the writer said, hey, we want this character to be this way a little bit differently in this episode, is to not change up the whole thing and to rely kind of on your crew, even if it's the costumer saying, well, no, they wouldn't wear that, and the director wants them to wear something that they wouldn't wear, whatever it is. So in other words, you can take it a little bit in a different direction, but you have to have a reason for that instead of just saying, I'm the guest director and what I say goes. So, a lot of good directors will come on and they'll say something, they'll come up and they'll go like, hey, what do I need to do to fit in, or how do I get rehired? And, and literally I'll just say, basically just go with what you feel. We'll guide you a certain way. If you don't like it, bring it up. But for the most part, we're kind of a machine already, and we're kind of doing a certain thing, and it hasn't failed us yet. So,
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
That's it. Trying to change everything, I think, is a good takeaway for guest directors. Like trying to change everything for one block in the middle of a season can be really disruptive.
Yeah,
it's weird, and I've had an experience early on too when I kind of started moving up, where I was kind of hired by the showrunners and some of the directors, and they were pretty adamant about saying, this is how we're doing our show. I don't want to deviate. We don't want this. We don't want dollies. We don't want that. We don't want all of these things. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then they would go away, and a director would come in and go, oh, let's do this big crane move. And I'd be like, well, we don't really do cranes on the show. And then I'd be the bad guy because. So I kind of learned now, hey, if you want to do that, that's fine. Let's try it. And then we'll go to try to get the equipment or whatever it is. And somebody will go, well, we don't do that. Then I can get other people involved instead of me trying to be the bad guy or whatever.
Yeah.
That sort of brings up a bigger question of like, I'm curious to know what your days are like of when are you interfacing with the showrunner? When are you interfacing with the producer? And when are you interfacing with the director? Because it sounds like that's a perfect example of you're hearing, a certain set of people say, no cranes. And then this person's saying cranes. And you're like, could you speak to, but
you're right.
You're the guy in the middle.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's the producers and directors and showrunners and all that, they'll speak to the new director, say, here's kind of our show. But then, of course, when the director gets there and they feel they need to do something different and nobody's around to not, remind them, they'll bring it up. But that was a while ago. It hasn't happened in in a number of jobs I've done since then, but it did come up. And I think for people listening, if they want to, kind of do the circuit, just kind of, you have what you want to do in that particular episode or block of episodes, but, rely on your crew that's been there every day, and especially your actors. And, you'll get the show you want, and they'll say, hey, what are you doing next season? We'd like to have you back. And you're like, oh, okay, I did something right.
That's great. Like Would you say, okay, which is the worst crime? Somebody who shows up and asks too many questions, like, how do you guys do this? How do you do that? Or someone who shows up and makes too many demands as a guest?
I would have to say probably demands if they're not substantiated. If they're just making demands and they're doing, well, what's what I did on another show or whatever, they let us do that here or there, then you're like, well, have you seen our show, Or now like, well, go ask the showrunner if he feels that good is good for the scene or whatever, So yeah, demands, some demands, sure, but I think if you're demanding too much, then everybody around you will know your level, so to speak, or your experience,
Yeah, I do feel like people who ask more questions too tend to be the more competent people. You know what I mean?
Right.
As opposed to like showing up and I don't know. I feel like the demands tend to show an inexperience, and I think a lot of newer directors feel like they need to show up and dominate and be the boss or something. There's something in that.
Yeah,
I think what you said, Todd, too, is so perfect. Like the difference between the questions and the demands is the type that comes in and says, how do you guys do it on your show? I want to know, versus this is how I do it as a director and how I've done it on all my shows. And listen, I think that's the difference. And I think, for any kind of well-oiled machine of a show that's moving along, like that is kind of a bit of a red flag if it's someone that's like, this is how I do it and this is how I've done it before. And that is maybe not totally congruent with, a moving train.
Right. Yeah. Well, you guys probably get that when directors come up and maybe say something about the script. And they're like, I'm not really sure what this character's doing, which is probably different than saying, hey, I think this character should do that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see that a lot. They're just asking, well, I'm not really sure. It's not apparent on the page what I need to be putting on the screen.
Yeah. What's motivating this character to do that thing? Like, we welcome those thoughts. Like, I always, it's amazing, the writing process is so fast and everything that I think sometimes it is like, oh yeah, that is a good point. Like, how do we get this character to enter the scene, or how do we motivate this character? It's not really on the page, and how do we tweak it to, and I think that kind of critique, I think, is always very helpful. It's like one more set of fresh eyes on a script right before you shoot it.
Yeah.
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 And that's back to Stacy's question. It's like, well, I'm in the middle because the writers are even off somewhere writing, because nowadays most of the stuff's not really written, ready to go, or there's millions of changes. So the writers are somewhere else, writing. So none of them are ever on set. So sometimes, that's why they're entrusting you to hopefully keep the vision, the tone, and the style,
Have you worked a lot without like a covering writer on set?
No, not recently. And even the last one was great because our showrunner he was directing a lot. When he did have to write, he'd just be sitting behind us.
Oh, I see.
Writing. So that was cool. Yeah.
Cool. That's great. What are the kinds of things you would like give script notes to a showrunner or the writers? Like, what are things you see that you're like, I don't know, that you raise a flag about?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because a lot of times, you'll read, in the dark of the night, we can't see anything. I'm like, we're a visual show. What's your level of not see anything? Well, no, there's a little light over here, or there, you'll see something, but I got to clarify, do you want a black screen or not? What do you want? Yeah. So those kind of visual directions on the script, I'll ask about, or, how much rain are you talking about? Or, do you want, any climate stuff or stuff like that? I'll ask questions about kind of that way. Or a lot of it's come up lately is, what do you consider sunset? What do you consider dawn? What do you consider dusk?
Yes.
Yeah.
That one, because that could be anything.
Oh my God. Mid-afternoon, evening, dusk.
I know. That's
twilight.
Exactly.
We tend to do that. That one speaks to us specifically because we have
Totally.
ADs come to us like at some point in prep, like, guys, there's two options: day and night.
Day.
Nothing in between. Yeah.
And by day we mean noon, start noon, and by night we mean nothing. Like,
We mean stage.
We're
on stage.
starting at 3 a.m.
Yeah, you can cheat dusk and dawn. You can't cheat day and night.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we talked about some of the pitfalls. Let's talk about the opposite. If you could like wave your magic DP wand and build the perfect showrunner, what skills would that person have? Like what would they be like? Build a perfect showrunner for us.
Well, obviously somebody kind of understands what their story's about, who's good knowing what all the crew does for the most part, comes on set, knows, who's got the boom or who's, putting atmosphere or who's the dollar, whatever, those kind of things. But this is an interesting topic. I hope it pertains to this. I think it will. But showrunners and shows nowadays, I think we've all been through it, is when somebody gets a great idea, and it's usually a producer, somebody about money, goes, hey, let's do double up days. Or let's, in the middle of the day, hey, we need to send somebody over there to shoot a whole scene. And while I get that financially and schedule-wise, I've seen that sometimes it breaks everything so apart that the main show seems to suffer in tone, style, because you've broken up everything. So to answer your question, I think the perfect showrunner to me would be somebody who says, we know we have a lot to shoot. We're either going to just have a complete dedicated second unit, does their thing, ready to do that, or we're not going to do that till we're ready, till we know. Instead of a big producer coming and whispering in his ear, said, hey, we're going to lose this actor in 2 hours. We got to go shoot this 4-page scene. And then everybody goes, oh, shit. And then, people are ordering new cameras. We're getting people coming in. We got to find people to go do it. It just creates chaos in my mind. Now, I get it.
Yeah.
Financially, I get it. But the perfect showrunner, somebody says, we're going to keep the chaos out of our show this season. We know we're going to hit it, but let's try to help it out.
Right. So spine, somebody who's got some spine in terms of saying, nope, we can do this. Let's stay the course.
And understands.
Understands the difference between a dedicated second unit and what a lot of people like to call a splinter unit, which is like, let's take the C camera and go shoot this thing over here. And, and I know I've been guilty of like, hey, Todd, can we go do this thing over here? And you've always, kind of pushed back on that for a good reason. I know when you push back on something, there's a reason for it. And it's for what you're saying is that the whole thing, the whole machine can start to,
for sure, but sometimes if it's just because it feels like, I don't know what the word is, if it just feels so rushed that it's not thought through, then I think everybody kind of suffers. But if you got to get it, you got to get it. But if you can get it later, or, a lot of the times too, on some of the earlier shows I've done, and even kind of the last show, there was so much visual effects and everybody felt they had to get it. And we're like, well, maybe you got to see the edit first, and then we can figure out if you need it or any of that. It maybe seems a little more economical. I know I did one show a number of years ago. They just had to shoot everything, but then they saw it and they go, well, we didn't even need all that. So I think it's just kind of more of the responsibility of keeping your show, the style, the tone throughout the whole show, and just try to keep that level up as opposed to parts and pieces. And that's what I've seen change in the business, the double up days. And not only that, the block system. You guys know that better than I know why they're doing it. And sometimes it makes sense, but if it's a very complicated show and storyline, I think everybody gets confused.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah. We define double up days just for people who may not know what that is.
Like me.
Well, a double up day would be, let's say we've got our main schedule right here, says we got 4 or 5 pages to shoot, but then there's going to be another schedule comes out for another crew, the double up crew, which we have to get all new cameras, new crew. It's like a second unit, but it's not a planned second unit. So they'll double up everybody to go shoot additional stuff for the episode or whatever it is. But those people may not have been on the show. Like I might have to pull in a DP who hasn't even been on the show. They're just going to go shoot some stuff, not knowing kind of how we do it. So they call those double up days, and typically you'll be on a street somewhere and you're shooting some exterior and they go, we've only got 1 day on this street before they have to rebuild it back, close it. If not, we have to pay another, $100,000. So that's when those double up days come up. So they'll go, well, we got to shoot a car driving by. We've got to shoot the other actor over here doing something, and we can't do both at the same time. We just can't. So they devise this term called double up, and they go, get new crew and they go shoot it. And hopefully it fits in with everything else you've done.
How much warning do you usually have about something like that? Is it like, part of the whole pre-production and all that, or is it like the day before they're like, by the way?
Yeah, it goes either way. Sometimes they've thought about it, and sometimes they learn these things like, oh, they're not going to let us do this, or this shop owner says we have to get out of here, so they've got to do it. And that I get, totally get it. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying I think the show suffers if you do too much of that.
Yeah.
Too much of that, yeah.
Not a great habit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. On Waco season 1, we did, we block shot it, and we had kind of double up days in the transitions from one block to the next and back. We had like two overlap days. And to your point, like we ended up cutting almost everything we shot in those
Oh, wow.
That's true.
in those zones.
Really?
Like, yeah, very
true.
little of that stuff survived because it just felt, kind of, especially the stuff like you didn't shoot, didn't quite feel like everything else,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, the intent's there on the production side. I get that. But I think, at some point, I think that's just my thinking of answering your question. Somebody who knows their show and says, here's how I want my show to be. And, so you look at it and you go, that feels like a feature film. That's cinematic because it doesn't have all of the other TV elements that some people might try to incorporate if they don't know any better,
Yeah. What would you say is the distinction in that? Like the TV elements, something that, something that feels cinematic. Like what are some of the elements that give it that feeling?
Yeah, I think mostly you're not keeping to a formula. If you can do a scene where maybe it's just, if it's a two-hander, a nice two-shot that maybe moves a little bit, or your actors move to different sizes, and depending on how long the scene is, of course. But if you can not, go in and say, okay, we're going to do the wide, then we're going to come in and do this, and we're going to come in and do that, then we're going to turn around and do that. I mean, that's kind of TV 101 in a way. So I think trying to not do what is expected, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, I think an example is this last show we did, because the sets were unbelievably amazing and the costumes were amazing, all the way from the top of their hair to their shoes. So we did very, very few close-ups. Everything was in a wide, and we kind of maybe move in. Everything was, here where you felt the atmosphere. You felt the sets, you felt the costumes, because when you get into here, then you're just kind of not focusing on that. Now, obviously, there were times we went and did that. We had to for some emotions and stuff. But for the most part, we were just like, this is it. And we do moves. We'd be on a crane all the time and kind of moving in and settle into these nice things. So had a very cinematic quality, and it didn't have a lot of TV things you think of, just, always over the shoulder, always a close-up, that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of hosing it down, like wide shot, over, close up, and next
Right.
scene. Like instead of seeing that over and over, which, in a lot of shows they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having some wide, some camera motion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some interesting flourishes.
I have a question. What's a show in the last couple of years that's out there that you did not shoot that you saw and you said, damn, they shot the hell out of that show, or I wish I shot that show? Or is there something out there that you looked at and said that they killed it on that one?
That's a good question. Well, it would, I don't know. Let me think about that. I kind of like the first True Detective, the way that it just had a lot of space and stuff
Agreed.
like that. I kind of liked that feeling. I don't know if it was overly great looking, but I think the style of it and just the way they covered it and didn't cover it, I thought was pretty good. But that's a great question. I've seen some stuff. I think recently, I just can't remember because I'm not big on the TV. I don't watch a lot of TV.
You don't watch a lot. Yeah.
I've gotten into it more often because the strike and COVID. But no, that's a great question.
Yeah, it's just curious what you would think is like a gold standard out there of something that you didn't shoot. Like True Detective, I think I couldn't agree more.
Super effective.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's those shows that give you atmosphere. Or give you the sets, give you what those people, where they're at and what they're doing in those spaces.
Yeah.
I did see. Well, I saw the newest True Detective, the first one, I think last night. And
I
there were
watched
some nice.
that last
Did you
night
watch
too.
it?
Yeah, last night as well. Yeah.
Well, there were some nice moments, not giving it away, but where they'd go out, they just kind of that whole mystery, and there'd be a guy in the middle of the tundra. And
Yeah.
you send them see there. So you in your mind are go, okay, what we know this is part of it. What's actually happening? Instead of having to cut right in to see a guy, they let it play for a while.
They do.
They give you, the audience, a chance to formulate your own story.
And that real open spaces, like, it's Alaska, so it's like big open end of the earth kind of feeling, and it really hammers that, and I think in a really effective way.
Yeah, in a way,
John
maybe
and
it's
I
like the urge to not get too detailed. The urge not to show too much.
Yeah.
John and I were just talking about that yesterday because I'm working on a thriller and I'm feeling all nervous about it because I have this internal feeling of like, there have to be a lot of clues. There have to be a lot of, so I'm watching a lot of thrillers now and realizing that's such a small fraction of it. So much of it. And anyway, John and I were talking about it yesterday and we're talking about how comedy and things like that, there's so much clarity. It's like, well, welcome to rehab. I hear that you're a dentist, and that thrillers, a lot of what makes it work is just, it's not that you're purposefully blurring things. There's a clear answer to what's going on, but you're just going to make the audience wait for it. You're going to set something up so that they find themselves just little mysteries of like, who is that? Why are they there? Is that okay? What's going on? And it's not, nobody's lying to you. There's nothing. It's just, you're going to have to wait for the answer. Maybe you just have to wait a scene or maybe you have to wait a couple of scenes. But those little internal questions of like, what's going on? What happened are so fun.
Yeah. Like True Detective is such a good example. Like there's, if I remember correctly, the early McConaughey scenes, he's smoking and he's talking and you're like, who's he telling all this to?
Yeah, right.
Is he being investigated? Is he talking to other cops? Is he, you know what I mean? Like, sort of the mystery of like, okay, he's talking, but who is he telling all this stuff to? Just even that was a little mystery.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas, like a more networky show may have had close-ups of everyone around the room, you'd know everything. And
Thanks for coming in and interviewing with us about the 25th anniversary of the death. Oh, you bet.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, right.
The questions
Hey,
are
that's
the
good
gold.
dialogue,
Yeah,
guys.
that's the gold.
Yeah, and a feeling too of like, within those mysteries, you can also create some stakes too of like, is he in trouble? Is this bad news? I don't know, until we figure out what exactly is going on and who he's talking to or why that person's stranded, there's a really good potential that this is bad news. And it's nice to have that
Right. And maybe a different hook. I remember we did a scene on the first Leftovers night scene where we catch all the remnants, people coming through the woods with flashlights, and you're all looking for something. It was just beautiful. And then a guy kind of steps in. Well, you see a dog just goes right through frame. You're like, what the fuck's a dog doing there? Excuse my language. And then the guy comes up and shoots him. Well, and then one of the other remnants looks at her and then continues on. Well, the scene wasn't about the dog. They were looking for one of their other guilty remnant ladies who ended up being tied to a tree and stoned to death. But it was that moment of introducing something else that you thought might have been part of the scene, but it was also a little bit of a distraction.
Yeah.
That just, because we had a lot of those where we'd shoot something and then a dog would run through frame or something. You're like, dog has, what's the dog doing? It's just to kind of send the viewer somewhere else.
That's
misdirection.
cool.
Yeah. So it was
That's
kind of
really
fun
cool.
that way.
Yeah. Sounds like what you were saying before with like, don't do the shot closer, over the shoulder, cover, that predictability lets everyone relax and unpredictable choices or unpredictable rhythms, even in just the edit, can keep you on your toes in a good way.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
John wrote down a question that I just love this one so much. Our little cheat sheet of things. Can we do this one? When you join a shoot and it's all horrible, what is usually the problem? Oh my God, that makes me laugh.
Yeah. Let's see, you come out to a shoot, everything's horrible. Like,
You look around, oh God. Yeah.
How would you diagnose the problem, sight unseen?
Well, that's a good question. I can almost use the last Waco in my experience was because it was on my end. It was, I was there, but because of what I was going through, it was horrible for me. And, I was grumpy the whole thing, but it was because what was going on around me. But no, if I get on something that it depends on how it's good, if it's not looking great or whatever. Well, actually, I was on one of those, and you just make the best of it. At that point, you say, okay, I'm going to make the best looking pictures I can. The best images I can possibly do. And there was a show I was on that was so chaotic, and it was an Amazon show. I want to mention it, but they had so many things they had to shoot, but they couldn't get the writer to do anything or get him. They needed all these interstitial stuff. So literally one day I was at lunch and I just typed up like 5 scenes of interstitial stuff, like people running from dogs, these things that were kind of scary, and somebody hitting a bee thing and it going off when somebody's, it was these little vignettes. And I just went to the showrunner and said, hey, I want to go shoot these next week. It's like, hey, these are great. And I went up and they did it. And I got a crew. I was on, because we had split DPs then. I like, hey, I'm only prepping this week anyway. Let me go shoot these. Like, yeah, these are great. Go do it. So
That's
it
so
was
fun.
Like, okay. I made the best of it, Yeah. And they all made it to the show.
Add a
awesome.
beach scene or two.
Hawaii.
Totally.
But you get on those and you just kind of adapt, and you know what you signed up for. May change a little bit, but you're still working, you're still doing what you like to do, and make the best of it.
That's a less deliciously gossipy, more diplomatic answer than I was hoping for. I was hoping for some dish.
I'm Switzerland, man.
Smart. That's why you work so much. And talent.
Well, how, like, when you hire people underneath you, like camera operators or electrical, gaffers, is like, what would you rate higher? Someone who's brilliant or someone who knows how to be flexible to the circumstance?
Yeah, I think somebody who's flexible, somebody who has a bit of opinion, knows how to get what you want, but somebody also who's not so aggressive or so I should be doing this instead of you attitude is what I look for. Because they may not know what we know and how we're going to present it later or how we want to cover it. So, like Brian Nordheim is fantastic. Love working with Brian.
Yeah.
Because he just knows how to get the shot. He also can raise a question how to do it better, or maybe there's other things. But at the end of the day, he's like, yeah, let's do it. You want to do that? Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's get her done. So that is so important because, you're on a set with somebody for months on an end, and you just want to be around somebody you like and just, you can hang out with every day and just hang out with them, and there's no wall there. So yeah, I look for that in crew. Sometimes it's younger, inexperienced people, but if I find somebody's experienced who can still, kind of float around with that and say, yeah, let's do that, that's good.
That's great.
And Brian is your steady cam and A cam. Is that right? Yeah. I'm sure he does other things as well, but just for the listeners.
Yeah.
He's pretty
Wonderful.
genius.
Todd is very gifted at finding amazing operators, and Brian being one of the all-time best, truly.
Yeah. And he's a funny dude too. I mean,
he's a really
his
funny
laugh is
dude.
great.
Yeah.
And I've always said he'd be like my number one pick in the, my number one draft pick for my apocalypse team would be Brian Nordheim. He just knows everything and knows how to do everything. And he's the guy you want with you.
And he's jet setting everywhere to go surfing or to go skiing. He's like everywhere.
Wow.
He is a good life. A real good life.
Yep. Well, one thing we like to do, we have 4 questions we like to ask each guest at some point. The rapid fire 4. And let's jump in on those. What is the first television show you truly loved and why?
Too many to list. And I went by years, 70s, because I watched a lot of TV in the 70s. I mean, I love, Columbo. I loved all those Rockford Files, all those great shows. But the one I always go back to, even right now today, is 60 Minutes. I love 60 Minutes.
60
And it's not even a TV show. I mean, it's a TV show. But it relates to my 3 favorite words for TV is entertainment, engaging, and education. I feel if I'm watching something like that, I've got to get all those. And 60 Minutes, I don't know, even though it's a talk show, it's always informative.
That's such a cool
great.
answer. I
That is
really have
super
that
cool.
like learning something as part of a show. There's so many nights where I'm like, I want to be entertained, but I also want to kind of, gather some knowledge of some kind. And that's such a hard thing to find in TV. And I like that
It
answer.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm semi-obsessed with Martin Short. Like, if he ever ends up killed by a stalker, I should be number one suspect. 'Cause I just love him so much. But do you remember the old SNL where there was a 60-minute spoof and he played, what was it, like Nathan Thome? I can't remember the guy's name, but he was the lawyer who's just sucking on the cigarettes. Like, he was just so paranoid in the 60-minute spoof. Like, what was it? Hey, you, I know you, I know you. There was something where there were two brothers who were synchronized swimmers. Yeah, and he was just sucking on the cigarettes, so paranoid. I can't remember why there was a lawyer character. It's so funny and delightful.
It's so good.
He's hilarious.
Genius. He's so good.
He sure
I want
is.
him. Martin Short, if you're listening, you could be my best friend. Call me.
Yeah.
Question 2. What is your favorite part of your job?
The collaboration and the troubleshooting, and then ultimately the end result, and walking away from a good day going, hey, we had a great day. We got great images, told a great story, and had fun doing it.
Love it.
Very healthy.
Okay,
healthy
question number 3. What is the part of the job that costs you something?
Like financially or just...
No, that like hurts. That hurts.
Yeah.
What's
What
the part
part
of the job that
sucks?
hurts?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the same for everybody. Just kind of being away, if you're doing location shooting, away from family, friends, your day-to-day existence. But there's rewards there too, because you meet a whole great group of people. You certainly get to see great things if you're on location. You get to experience that. So the biggest cost, is just being away from, kind of escaping in a way and letting that side of the family have to deal with certain things that they have to deal with. Now, most families in our business understand that. Some don't, but that's the biggest cost. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Boy, that was
great.
especially tough during COVID, huh? With travel restrictions and
Oh, that was tough.
yeah,
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We
People
shot
don't
in
realize
Canada
we were-
during that. Yeah. And there was
Yeah.
a 5-week. Was it a 5-week like zone or like a 3 or was it 2 weeks? Was it 2 weeks?
when we showed up, it was a 2-week quarantine.
Yeah.
Quarantine, but
Yeah, so you
the
couldn't
border
pop
was
back and forth.
closed. So for us Americans that were up in Canada, we got up there in February, and there was no one could get across the border as a visitor until August. So I mean, it was like a long
Yeah, that
time.
was
We're like,
weird.
yeah.
And I think
We're
you
like-
guys, I know you went up there before, and they had that whole rule where you had to stay in a hotel till you got your results back, and they're like, "Oh, you might be in there 10 days." Well, we were in there a day and a half, so they got paid for 9 days in a hotel. But that was kind of weird. So that was tough being up there, and I think one of the funny stories on that I like to tell is when we were up there. Brian knew our friend Kyle Chandler too, the actor. And because they had done a show together. So we're up there and Kyle calls and he says, hey, I'm coming up to Canada. I think it was in Toronto or something. I'm doing a show up there, but I've got 2 weeks in between to visit you guys, because he couldn't leave without going back to get quarantined.
Yeah.
So he caught a flight over. We hung out a couple of days in Calgary, and he rented a car, was going to drive all the way back. So Brian and I were like, dude, do not cross the border and go that way, even though it's 2 days shorter. Because you have to wait 10 days to get in. He's like, oh man, I would have forgot that. So he did some crazy drive where he went up in the tundra in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my God.
And then finally landed a week later back in Toronto in time to work. But it was so funny because there was that whole if you make a mistake and take the short route, you're totally screwed.
Yeah, if you accidentally cross the border, you're screwed by 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're right, 2 weeks.
What a weird year, man.
What a
The
weird
fine,
year.
if you didn't stick to your quarantine, the fine was insane. It was like $1 million.
It was like
wasn't
$1 million fine.
Yeah. If you didn't stick to your quarantine and if you were an American and you didn't stick to your Canadian quarantine and you got people sick, then it was $1 million fine. And that happened to. So anyway, I remember we had just landed. We'd been there a few days. It was really cold. And I was out walking the Chihuahua. And I went, you're only supposed to go in the backyard, but I went down the street and John stuck his head out and goes, get back.
I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm normally like the rule follower, and he's normally the rule breaker. But I'll give my Chihuahua anything she wants, and even $1 million dog walk.
And they would actually show up and check on you too. Like they were not messing around in Canada.
No, they were not.
Well, hey, if we were a bunch of bored filmmakers, that would be a great like documentaries follow up. Who actually got charged $1 million?
Yeah.
And those
Oh, yeah.
people that
Couple,
did,
yeah.
they're probably on the street in the gutter.
There was one guy, I read about one guy who was a repeat offender. He did it twice, and they threw the book at him, and it was a full $1 million. He was an American.
Oh, my God.
He was up there fishing, and he got busted once. They kind of let him off easy, and then he got busted again, and they threw the book
Threw it
at
at
him.
Yeah, I support them. Like at some point, like come on, dude, you had a chance not to do it again.
Yeah, right.
And all for fishing, not the sexiest temptation I've ever heard of.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
I know.
Yeah, number 4. If you had a time machine, what one piece of advice would you give yourself when you started your television and film journey?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. Maybe just enjoy the moments a little bit more and not be so caught up into, all the pressure and what had to happen and how you had to be part of it. Maybe. I think for the day-to-day, that would be it. Other than that, maybe, I don't know. That's a good question. I think I would have also maybe got into some other side things, like maybe doing commercials and things like that I never had an opportunity to do. So maybe it's just some offshoots of that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I think you get into it, and I think you guys are all the same. I think we're all the same once we get into it. And it's like you may be on a job, but you hear of that next job and they show interest, or you got that job. It's like, oh, I can't wait to get on that job. So it was always a cycle to be on a job instead of kind of maybe enjoying what you're on and, all that. So maybe that's part of it.
I get that. I can so relate to that. I find myself like in the writer's room, like, oh, I can't wait till we're shooting this. And then when shooting, I'm like, oh, I can't wait till we're editing this and we're done with the shoot. And then, I don't know. It's always, it's hard not to be always looking forward to the next thing,
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, Todd, thank you so much for jumping in. And this is
Really appreciate it, Todd.
Super fun.
so great seeing you and hanging out.
Listeners, if you like our show, would you please consider taking a minute to subscribe to it, to rate it highly, and to tell your friends about it. That really helps us find our audience, grow our audience, which would be rad. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank
Great
you,
to see you,
Todd.
Todd.
Yeah, great to see you.
Thanks, guys.